Welcome to Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes, a podcast hosted by international award-winning author, two-time TEDx speaker and investor, Natalie Haddad. She will share the tips and tricks from interviews with self-made entrepreneurs, leaders, and those who have attained financial freedom while learning financial literacy.
Hello. Welcome to Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes. Today's guest is someone that I know very well as far as not only the founder of Lola Retreat, a well-known author, speaker, and also host of the Mental Wealth and Health podcast. I love what she's doing in our community. She is not only an advocate for mental health and financial literacy, but she is also those type of people that the moment I met her, she is the type that helps lift other women, lift other people of color, basically shine some light. And I think that's one of the best things about being able to see her voice and see her power presence. I really call her a powerhouse. Miss Melanie Lockert, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you so much. It's quite the introduction. And, I thought the same of you, which is why I was so excited to get you as a speaker at Lola Retreat and have you part of my network. So glad to be here.
Thank you. So I wanted to just dive into, especially everything that's been going on with the pandemic and the protesting, and for you, your background. I wanted people to hear a little bit about you, but kind of what made you want to start Lola Retreat? What made you want to start this community as well as your podcast? Because obviously it's something that was started with you, it ignited you, and then obviously now you sharing your story with others.
So I started Lola Retreat with a co-founder, Emma Petty, in 2017. And actually it kind of started with, feeling like there was a boys club at, a lot of the financial kind of events and conferences. And, we were feeling kind of left out, and, women's voices and diverse voices were not really being heard in the way that we thought they should be. And at that point, Donald Trump had just been elected. The Me Too movement was happening. A lot of things were going on. And so it was like, now more than ever, we really need to have a safe space where women can talk to each other about money. And so we created Lola Retreat, and we've done 4 events so far. One in Portland, New York, Los Angeles, and Seattle. And you were so lucky and gracious enough to speak at Lola LA and Seattle, and that was wonderful. And, it's just been a great way of getting women together in a safe space to chat about money, to really have those conversations that they're not having anywhere else. And, each event is different. And so I don't have repeat programming. I have kind of the basics of, budgeting and paying off debt and investing. But then I have, different things like being single and pursuing financial independence, retire early, or, why you're really using money as a tool for empowerment and getting women further than they would be otherwise. And also it's really about creating community. So a big part of Lola is about that community aspect. I think it's so important to have those relationships. And I have tons of women that come and contact me and say, oh, I met my best friend at Lola, or we still stay in touch. And, it's so great to hear that. And, that's been a passion project for the past few years. And then most recently in January, I launched mentalhealthandwealth.com. In February, I launched the Mental Health and Wealth Show, the podcast. And it really came out of this desire to break down the taboo of money and mental health. And so I had started my blog, Dear Debt, in 2013 because I was depressed about my own debt. I had $81,000 in student loan debt, and I felt extremely depressed. I felt like, how am I ever going to get out of this debt? And really, it wasn't until I started my blog, started taking action, getting accountability, did I start to shift things. But then the more that I talked about my relationship with depression and debt, suddenly other people started following me for that reason. And people were Googling, I want to kill myself because of debt, which was just so heartbreaking. And so I started doing suicide prevention advocacy work in the personal finance community. Every September, I would get about 30 to 40 blogger friends together to talk about this very topic. And so, over the years, people have just kind of associated me with, oh, if you want to talk about mental health and money, talk to Melanie. And so I was like, why don't I just lean into this? It's a topic I feel like I can talk about forever. And so I started mentalhealthandwealth.com and launched the Mental Health and Wealth Show, which I never thought I would have a podcast, but here I am. And it's been great. And so, I consider Lola Retreat and mentalhealthandwealth.com my babies. And, I'm very passionate about working with underserved communities like women, people who need mental health resources. Before getting into personal finance, I worked in the nonprofit sector. I actually worked here in LA, working with Latino communities, doing after school arts programming. And so, I've always had this kind of mission of how can I work to support others and how can we kind of share our resources to better the world. And so in whatever small way, that's what I want to do with my legacy.
I love that because you just hit it right on the spot where, talking about our money should be a place that we're feeling safe, that we're feeling included, that we are learning about something that other haven't really ventured into. And I completely felt that both times at Lola, where it was this fun, safe place. It was this place where we felt that we can be creative, that we can really talk about our worries about money and what we can do to make the right money moves. And that's part of what it is to be able to create this content that you've been doing, because not only are you doing it by audio, by live events, but you're also allowing us to have these conversations of the unconventional money situations or money talks, because it's true, there's many conferences out there and places that I've been there. It is very much the boys club and it's always about the same topic over and over. But I think you've done well with, separating yourself in that sense where there's all these niches, there's all these different voices that need to be heard. And I do remember like meeting Tanya from my Fed Finance. We were on the panel together, and
Yeah.
I love how you highlighted so many different women of color as well, and telling our stories. And so I thank you for what you do, because sometimes we don't know if that resource is available until sometimes we have to create it for ourselves. So I have to ask you a question, because you have been
Mhm.
connected with so many different events and conferences and resources. What are your top favorite tips, whether it's like podcasts or your favorite books or things that you love recommending to people? And obviously, I recommend people to read your book, Dear Debt, because I loved it when I read it. So, any others that you recommend for someone?
There's definitely Your Money or Your Life. Jose, I think Dominguez is his last name. It's such a great book, really contextualizing like how you live your life and how that relates to money. I remember the first time that I took one of the concepts where it's like, how much time is each purchase worth? So like you get a coffee, like when I was making minimum wage, I was like, this coffee is like half an hour of work. Like, do I really want to be spending that much time? And so, that book really changed my life. I think the podcast by Natalie Bacon, Design Your Dream Life, is something that I'm kind of binging these days. It's really fantastic. I also love the Fair Sense podcast with Kara and Tanya. And I think there are so many, resources like yours and other blogs in the community that share different people's experiences. And what I loved about blogs in particular when I started mine is that it's these people who have their own unique stories and unique voices. And in a way, that's kind of more relatable than a lot of these, professional books and whatever. And I think, whatever kind of entryway that people can get into to start, igniting that passion for personal finance, I think that's, important.
I love that. And for you, I think it's so cool that you've incorporated your passions with it, right? So your love of arts, your love of creativity. And I think that's the one thing you and I hit it off, because we're like, oh yes, we don't want to teach the traditional financial, workshops. We want to
Yes.
incorporate what makes it want to be fun, what makes us want to learn more about it. I usually start off with this question and I want to end it with you, but can you tell us maybe the first time that you got paid and made you think differently about money? So maybe you were working a 9 to 5, or you started because you've created income as far as passive and earned income. But do you remember that first
Mhm.
time that made you think, oh, I need to do something different because this is, either it was something good or bad for you?
Yeah, I actually tweeted about this yesterday, and it was kind of when I just was kind of transitioning from being in the nonprofit sector, where my last job, I was an events and communications coordinator in Portland. I was making $31,000, and I had just started freelance writing on the side, which is how I make the majority of my income today, besides Lola Retreat and mental health and wealth. And I had started working for other bloggers and other outlets, making between like $25 a post to like $100 a post. And, in my mind, I was like, cool, I get paid to write. This is amazing. Like, cool. And then I remember I had another client kind of reach out to me, and I thought, I'm just going to do something different. And instead of giving my rate, I'm going to ask, do you have a budget in mind for this? And they were like, yeah, it's 50 cents a word. And I was like, 50 cents a word? So for an 800 word post, this is going to be $400. And at that point, I was making between 25 and $100 per post. And then suddenly, it was one of those moments where my whole world expanded because I thought, if one client is able to pay this, then there's other clients that are paying this. And that really kind of helped the transition from me out of what I call like the low payback bracket into like a higher income, which, as a former nonprofit worker, I never thought I'd make, more than 30, 40 grand. And then to be able to do that through self-employment was so rewarding. And, I think that's why it's really important to talk about money and rates. I also think sometimes it's important to ask if people have a rate in mind, because not always, but in this case, they quoted way higher than I was going to quote them. And so that was like a revelation for me, where I was like, oh my gosh, this would be $400 when I was probably going to ask for like 100. That's literally 4 times more than I was going to ask. And so that literally changed the trajectory of my career.
I love that, because you're now implementing this new negotiation tactic, right? And that's happened to me so many times too. And I love the fact that you're open about telling people like, hey, this is what bloggers make and this is how much in the range, because sometimes we have no clue. And you just said it. It's just, now this is, and that's happened to me many times where I'm like, if they're going to offer up, let me find out. And if they don't offer, then I ask around. So I have a number in mind. Because sometimes I'll be like, well, what do you want? Where I'm like, I don't want to lowball myself, because there's moments where you look back
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I could have gotten double for that, And so I thank you for sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people are listening. They want to build other, hopefully side hustles, they call it, or just basically other sources of income. And sometimes if writing is their passion and they're good at this, I think this is another way that they can, especially now virtually. This is awesome that you can share your wisdom and your expertise in doing this for so many years. Because now people are starting to find out that this is the best, one of the healthiest ways right now to stay safe and still make some income. So thank you for sharing that, and for creating these type of platforms, because there's very few. And I think you recently posted on something like that, where it's not enough that we stand up for ourselves. You and I are big advocates on gender wage gap and making sure that we not only pay equal pay, and obviously what people are worth as well, to value their worth. But I love the fact that you really do that. You practice what you preach, and not just by creating those events and creating this content, but you've managed to figure out a way, and letting people know it's okay to provide your own financial literacy workshop or content in a wholly different manner. And I think sometimes when we start to look at it is the art form of it. Like for me, it's like, now I'm including dance moves, I'm including music, things that I'm like, wait, this makes me happy. Why not include that with financial literacy? So thank you for what you're doing. So before we end, is there something or someone that has helped you along the way to become a little bit more financially savvy in what you do? Because I'm sure you have plenty of mentors, but is there someone or something that's really stood out, that's really helped you catapult where you are today?
Yeah, I would actually say Tanya Rapley from My Fab Finance. We connected very early on, and her financial advice on her blog and just her wisdom and her experiences and her helping me kind of with our own events that we were doing, my career, she's been invaluable for me.
Oh, I love her. I mean, I've gotten to know her, and thanks to you. I mean, her and I have known each other virtually, and then to meet her during that panel, and she had just had her baby. So it's been, I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing to connect with women that are, you say we look up to them. So I mean, I love her too. So I think that's amazing that she's obviously someone for you. And it's, once again, thank you for doing this. And if there's a way that people can reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on mentalhealthandwealth.com as well as deardebt.com. And you can check out the show at on Apple or iTunes, Stitcher, on the Mental Health and Wealth Show.
Oh, well, thank you, Melanie. So for those, make sure you stay tuned for another episode of Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes, and make sure that you take care of your mental health and tune into her podcast, because you can create wealth at the same time. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
To learn more about the podcast, check out financiallysavvyin20minutes.com. For more interviews, make sure you look up Financially Savvy in 20 Minutes on YouTube and Instagram TV. To hire the Trailblazer, as Forbes featured her the financial and mental health advocate for your next workshop or speaking engagement, follow Natalie at Financially Savvy Latina on all social platforms. All it takes is 20 minutes daily to become financially savvy. Music by Nikki and produced by Robert DeLude.